Welcome to the Data Scientist Podcast with Dr. Stylianos Kampakis. Dr. Kampakis is a data scientist, statistician, and blockchain expert with a mission to educate the public about the wonderful capabilities of technologies like AI, data science, and DLTs. These technologies have the potential to transform the world, the economy, and our lives. However, there is too much misinformation around tech, and so most people are just confused about what is true and what is not. Whether you are a CEO, an entrepreneur, or just an enthusiast, the Data Scientist Podcast helps you separate reality from hype.
Hi everyone. In this episode, I'd like to share some thoughts about how COVID-19 and the whole pandemic is going to affect the AI industry. So one thing that we know for sure is that this pandemic is not going to leave society and the economy unaffected. And I'm not talking about the short-term consequences, I'm also talking about the long-term. So there are a few things which have become clear over the last few months of this pandemic. One is that the economic consequences will be severe and they will be with us for at least a few years to come. For example, Hertz, one of the biggest car rental companies, went bankrupt. EasyJet has announced that they're sacking off about 30 or 40% of their employees. And, we're certain that there are more companies that are going to follow, either going bankrupt or sacking off employees, unfortunately. At the same time, we can't really be sure that this virus is not going to come back or something else is not going to come back, which means that measures like social distancing might be part of the new normal, might be part of our lives for the years to come. And even if, let's say, in 1 or 2 or 3 years, we realize that there's really no risk from a virus, measures are much more relaxed, etc., businesses will still care about becoming pandemic-proof. Investors will also care about the same, about businesses being pandemic-proof. Also, something which we don't know is like whether in 2-3 years, how the businesses which are not easily affected by pandemics, how they're going to fare compared to pandemic-sensitive industries. For example, airlines obviously have suffered a lot during this pandemic, whereas computer science companies, depending on obviously the services or the products they provide, might have not been affected at all in some cases. So it's clear that there's a new kind of economy that's going to arise from this crisis, and it will look somewhat different to the economy before the pandemic. Yeah, so the history books will note this down as a very important point in economic history. So my personal opinion as to how this is going to affect the AI industry and how AI is going to be affected by this and etc. is that I believe we're going to see automation playing a huge role in the next few years. So we've been hearing a lot about AI and automation, right? So we've heard about autonomous vehicles. Tesla, Google have invested, I don't know how much money in this technology. Also, drones for, use cases like farming, drones in the use of farming. These are some very well-known use cases of automation. But I believe that now, with everything that we're seeing, all businesses will take a serious look at automation because before the pandemic, automation was a nice to have for many organizations, whereas now it looks like it becomes a necessity. And what I mean by that is that, basically a robot is not going to get sick. A robot doesn't care about social distancing. So if you can replace humans with robots or drones or whatever, then the question is, okay, how can we actually speed this process up? Why? Because, I have a farm and my employees got sick and basically I'm economically devastated because no one could go to work, right? So how can I speed the adoption of automation in my organization? How can I speed it up? And I believe that investors will now ask this from businesses. They will be like, okay, so what are you going to do in the event of a pandemic? How pandemic-proof are you? And I believe that many industries like the entertainment industry, the restaurant industry, the bars, pubs, etc., they might also be more open to using things like robotic mixologists instead of real barmen. This might sound a bit crazy, right? So don't think there are many bars in the world that were using, robot mixologists, even if the technology exists. But now, because of everything that has been happening, the perceptions, the attitudes toward these technologies change. So people realize that, hey, I can do things in a different way. We can work remotely. We've not been out in a bar for 2 or 3 months, and that's fine. And, when we go to a bar, maybe we get served by someone who's not a human, and this keeps us safer from a virus and from future viruses. So I believe that we're going to see automation playing a major role in the near future. So anyone who's involved in this area, AI and automation, I'm sure they're going to be very busy the next few years. So that's one. I also believe that AI will play a very prominent role in health in the next few years. I believe that the technologies like using AI to discover new vaccines, they're going to dominate the headlines of the tech news. And I believe that we will see many, many companies showing up in this area, in AI and health. For lads, I think for the most part, AI was, when we were talking about AI in health, most people would assume that we're talking about the use of computer vision to, diagnose cancers on X-rays and this sort of thing. But I'm sure there are going to be many more applications in the near future, especially as data collection gadgets become more accurate. Right now we have Fitbit and Apple Watch, etc. But these watches, they leave many things to be desired. For example, Fitbit does not record the galvanic skin response, does not record the heart rate variability. So I believe that we might see a resurgence in these kind of technologies and wearables, not only for fitness purposes, but also for the prevention of disease. AI will have a major role to play in this. So in general, if I were an investor in this area, if let's say I had $50 million to spend, I would seriously consider investing in many different companies in AI and health. I believe that's going to be a very fruitful area, and also automation. And obviously, all this also comes back to some of my work. As you know, as those of you who have been following my podcast, my blog, you know that I've done lots of work in data strategy, in explaining data science to decision makers and organizations. And I've seen lots of cultural resistance from bigger organizations especially. And I believe the pandemic is going to break through this barrier of cultural resistance. So I believe that this whole situation is going to speed up developments that were already taking place. So instead of seeing, fully automated operations in many industries, 10 years we might see this in 5. So I guess things look pretty interesting if you're in this area. And as always, I'd be very interested to hear your opinion. Feel free to reach out to me through my blog, The Data Scientist. Thank you for being here with me, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to visit thedatascientist.com for more content about data science, AI, and blockchain.